This is Tackle Talk Live, an inside scoop on how, when, and where to catch bass, with a primary focus on Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn. Interviews with anglers who are consistent winners on the tournament trail. Your hosts, Camus Boats Pro Staffer Steve Graff and Gill Fishing Accounts Manager Kevin Jean. Two anglers who understand bass fishing with tournament success on all levels. Anglers willing to share their knowledge to help you become a better fisherman. So sit up and pay close attention as they give detailed tournament information and results. Here are the hosts of Tackle Talk Live, Steve Graff and Kevin Jean.
Welcome to Tackle Talk Live. I'm Diver Pro Staffer Steve Graff, along with Gill Fishing Accounts Manager Kevin Jean. Kevin, today we got a lot to cover today. We're going to wrap up the Dylan Poche event, which was a great turnout on Toledo Bend. We're going to wrap up the Texas Team Trail, which was a pretty good turnout. Fishers of Men results, which has been a good turnout for them. They do very well. And then we'll wrap up the ABA Pro League in Louisiana, the first year of this organization. And so we got a lot to cover today.
Yeah, we do, Steve. And I just got back from the Bassmaster Classic there in Tulsa. I just got back very late Sunday night. So we can kind of talk about that as well, man. That was a great turnout. People everywhere. Tulsa showed out. What an absolute awesome expo it was. So anyway, just got back, back from that. Toyota started today on Toledo Bend. They had a wind delay, which you don't hear that very often.
No, you don't.
But the wind was supposed to be calming down, so they didn't do takeoff till 8 o'clock. But that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week. So a lot going on, man. Huge turnout for the Poche tournament. Hate I couldn't be there. It's just same week of the Classic, and there's nothing I can do about that. But I haven't heard anything but great things from that tournament. So awesome week. But Steve, we've got Clint Wade coming on. Who Clint has been on the show multiple times with us. We always bring Clint on to get his opinion, a lot of the tournament side of things, just because he's running Outlaw Outdoors, and very good interview, very smart. So, man, we got a very interesting topic today. And what's the state of 2024 bass fishing, and where are we at tournament wise? He was they oversaw the Despino tournament on Toledo Bend. That was non-forward facing sonar tournament. So we're going to get his thoughts on that and just kind of talks tournament fishing in general around the whole area.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having Clint on. There's some things I'd love to pick his brain about, being especially a tournament director. They got a little different viewpoint than sometimes an average angler or a normal person, because they're looking at the big picture, not just a little bitty picture like an angler would just be looking at his little world. Right. But we'll talk to Clint. I'm looking forward to having him on, as we've had him on before. He always does a great job. We're going to talk about the Toyota series, as Kevin's already alluded to. This week started this morning on Sam Rayburn, and we'll hopefully kind of get a little preview, and maybe Clint can even give us a little preview what the lake's like right now, how's it fishing. But Rayburn and Toledo have both been on fire, so I don't know why anything would have changed. Little cool front came through yesterday. It's kind of cooled the water down a little bit, but these fish that are committed, Kevin, they're committed, and they're going to go do their thing no matter what.
Yeah, I don't see that cool front affecting those fish. I don't think it was enough of one, or they're too far gone. We'll put it that way to turn around and make a change on them. So we'll be interesting to see some weights. The Poche tournament weights were down. I was very shocked to see those tournament results. Hats off, good friend Andre Martin for winning it right at 22 pounds. Excited for him. And but really anxious to see what these Toyota weights are like today.
Yep, we've got all that. We've got upcoming tournaments. We've got lake levels to give you, and I've got a little short product of the week. We've got all this and more today on Tackle Talk Live. Let's take a quick break, recognize a few of our sponsors. We'll be right back with Clint Wade of Outlaw Outdoors. We'll be right back.
A good marine dealer is hard to find, but a great dealer is even harder. But in Iowa, Louisiana, there's a marine dealer that falls into the great category. Power Implements Marine, South Louisiana's go-to dealer for all things related to the boating industry. A Minn Kota, Garmin, and Mercury dealer, guaranteeing you first-rate service in both sales and repair. A great selection of new and used boats to choose from, including Skeeter, G3, Ranger, Camus, and Go Devil. A knowledgeable staff that will treat you like family and are always willing to go the extra mile to ensure you walk out a happy customer. To see everything they have to offer, go to powerimplements.com or stop by 606 East Miller Street in Iowa, Louisiana. Plus, mention Tackle Talk Live and save $500 off a new or pre-owned boat or $50 off your first service ticket. Toledo Health is a full-service primary and acute care clinic. Nurse practitioners Jarrett Rule and Melissa Vines bring quality health care that's needed and convenient to the area. Nothing is worse than being sick on your family or fishing getaway. Whether it's a stomach virus or a hook in the hand, Toledo Healthcare will try and meet all your health care needs. Appointments available and walk-ins are always welcome. So the next time you're feeling down at Toledo Bend, stop by Toledo Healthcare, located on Highway 6 just south of Toledo Town, or call 318-508-5323. Very few stores are a complete one-stop shop, but Cypress Knee Outdoors is such a place. A store within a store. Cypress Knee is located inside 3J's four-way. Whether you need gas, food, drinks, or bait and tackle, they have it. Cypress Knee Outdoors carries top-name fishing brands like Strike King, Sandtone, Spro, and V&M. Crappie jigs from Bobby Garland. Need hunting gear? They have it. Ammunition from rifle to shotgun shells. Deer scents from Buck Wild and Doe and Heat. Deer stands from Titan and feeders from T-Hanger. Cypress Knee has it all. Located off I-49, exit 127, just south of Natchitoches, Louisiana. So stop by Cypress Knee Outdoors and let John Abram and his staff show you everything they have to offer. Or give them a call at 318-238-HUNT. You're watching Tackle Talk Live, a show dedicated to making you a better angler. Now back to the guys with all the inside scoop, Kevin Jean and Steve Graff.
This is Tackle Talk Live. Thank you for tuning us in. This segment presented by Toledo Health. 3J's four-way home of Cypress Knee Outdoors. Kevin, I went in there this past week, had to pick up a few things before I head down to Lake Seminole in Georgia. And, I'll tell you what, they're doing a great job. I'm telling you guys, if you're coming up I-49 and you're headed for Toledo Bend or maybe Cane River, stop in at this place. Man, they've got everything under the sun. They got stuff that all the top name brands you could ask for. So stop in and stock up on your tackle when you go through there, and you can grab yourself something really good to eat at their deli. Just a great place to stop. And we're also sponsored by Power Implements Marine, located right there in Iowa, Louisiana. And guys, all you got to do, if you mention Tackle Talk Live, you're going to get $500 off the purchase of a new or used boat, or you're going to get $50 off your first service ticket. So, hey, all the incentive in the world to go to Power Implements Marine right there in Iowa, Louisiana. On the Tackle Talk hotline, we've got the man who knows anything and everything about the world of bass fishing.
About anything and everything about everything. He'll tell you that.
Mr. Clint Wade, the owner of Outlaw Outdoors. And Clint, hey, man, thank you for being with us today. We're going to pick your brain today. You know, we're not going to get you in any trouble, but we are going to pick your brain a little bit. And I guess the first question I got, Clint, as a tournament director, I've talked to a buddy of mine, Mike Eccles, my co-host on my other show, Hooking Up and Tracking Down. And Mike runs the H&W tournament trail. His numbers are way down. I'm sure Outlaw Outdoor numbers are down. Texas Team Trail's down. Bass Champs is down. What is the
Toyota
deal?
at Toledo Bend today had like 110 boats.
Oh, wow, that's way down. So, Clint, what is going on? Is it too much? What is it?
You know, Steve, first of all, I appreciate you guys having me on today, and I hope I appreciate it. You know, I hope the conversation don't get too sideways. And, you know, I think it's kind of like we have talked before. It's going to be just all an opinion. You know, there's no solid answer to any of these as far as what kind of numbers, why they're down and all. I look at it as everything is a trend. And I think fishing reached its peak post-COVID in late 2020, early 2021, mid 2021. Everything, whether it's NASCAR, NFL, fishing, golf, everything can continue to climb as far as statistics. And I just think we're starting to fall off of that peak. And why is that? I think the most obvious thing is money. And, the economy's it's changed from what we had 3 to 4 years ago, and things are tight. The grocery store's expensive, and guys can't go and spend $250 on a tournament, plus motel, plus expenses, and plus their boat note and their truck note. And just the cost of life and living is expensive now. So I think that's number one. Number two is, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room, forward-facing sonar. And let me go on record right at the beginning of this conversation. I think forward-facing sonar, especially Garmin LiveScope, is great technology. I think we can all agree to that. I mean, it's amazing. And that's probably why we're having this conversation. Is it too good is probably the question. I think that does have a little bit of factor into the numbers. But fishing has changed a little bit now, as far as if you want to call it, the ease of catching fish. I personally can say Stacy and I 5 to 7 years ago could go out on Rayburn and I call them kid fish, meaning there's groups of fish out there, schools of fish that we could sit on for 20 minutes at a time and practically catch them every cast. And just over the last 3 or 4 years, those schools have diminished, and now I can't take you to a school of fish, that you could sit on for 5 minutes, much less 10 or 15. And so fishing's gotten more difficult. Now, is that contributed to forward-facing sonar? Is it contributed to just the sheer number of people on the water? I don't know. Probably a combination of both. But now that fishing is a little more difficult for people, you can't just take a weekend guy and come to the lake and he catch 40 or 50 fish. So it's not as fun as it used to be. Plus, it's expensive. Anything that's expensive is not quite as fun as it was when it wasn't as expensive. Mm-hmm. So that combined with all the others, I think is everybody wants to come and catch fish. That's when it's fun. And when you can't catch them like you used to, that takes a little toll on you. I mean, personally, Kevin, I know both of y'all tournament fish, obviously. You go and pay the expenses, like I mentioned earlier, entry fee and fuel and stuff. If you go to a lake after you incur those expenses and you catch 40 or 50 fish and go home, even though you don't win a check, you can justify, man, I had a good time. We were 1 or 2 bites away from winning a check or winning the tournament. But when you catch 2 or 3 fish, 5 fish, it hurts. And you don't have fun. And I think that's taken away a little bit from the numbers.
Well, and there's, as you said, and I agree with you 100%, Clint. I think it's a mixture of all of this is happening. Everything you said, plus I think life in general happens. You take myself, for instance, 5-10 years ago, 5-6 years ago, I was fishing everything. I was fishing every weekend. I was either on Toledo, I was on Rayburn, I was fishing your events. I was fishing all the team circuits, BFL, so on and so forth. Life happens. I've got a daughter, and as everybody knows, as their kids get older, their kids get involved in things, and I think that has happened. I have to follow mine around playing softball and running track and everything else that she's doing, so I'm running around after her, and I'm not able to put in time to practice. And if you're not able to put in the time to practice nowadays, you cannot compete. No. Forward-facing sonar or not. I don't care about the forward-facing sonar from that aspect. If you're not going to be able to put in the time to practice, you cannot show up on Saturday and go compete. Would you agree?
I agree 100% with that. And I'm right down the same road with you, with Stacey and I having the real estate company and then we, tournaments, we put on, this year we'll put on 19 tournaments and the majority of them are January through June. So our time is taken up. So it is personally taking us out of the tournament game to an extent. We still fish as much as we can, but it has. It's reduced the numbers, from us.
Yeah.
Well, and I can relate to Kevin's situation because I had a daughter that came up and she was a travel ball player and ended up playing at Northwestern State, and she had a great career, and we followed her. I was one of her coaches as they were coming up, and fishing took a back seat for me. Well,
Yeah.
when she graduated and through college, and now she's a head coach at Ruston High School, we still follow her, but it freed me up to get back into the fishing game. And I did Toyotas, I did the BFLs, I've done all that. But now I'm 63 years old, and Clint, I know Kevin's not there yet. I don't know how old you are, Clint, but I know you're not as old as I am. But my perspective has changed when it comes to tournament fishing. I've basically decided to take and pick the ABAs and focus on that, and that's my sole concentration. I fish Texas division, I fish the solo 150s, and it satisfies my itch to fish tournaments. I mean, I enjoy what I'm doing. It's still fun, but your perspective changes as you get older too when it comes to tournament fishing, especially when it comes down to dollars and cents.
I agree 100% with that. And Sunday morning was a prime example. We didn't really have any major plans on Sunday, and we woke up at 5 o'clock, and there was a little jackpot there at Castle Boykin that we could have fished. And we heard the wind blowing a little bit outside, and we hit the alarm off, and we rolled over and went back to bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, you'd have run out there just with clothes on and ready to go. But
absolutely, hollering.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a fish in this. I can still beat them.
Yeah.
No, not anymore.
Clint, what about the high school side? Like we were talking off there a while ago, 420 something teams fished on March the 16th out of Sam Rayburn. Are you seeing more high school teams jump into your stuff and college teams? Are these teams jumping into the other circuits? Or are they just strictly fishing high school and college events?
I think the easy answer is I'm not getting any high school participation, but it's because I won't allow a captain in the boat in any of our tournaments. Not to say they can't fish with their dad or just fish with their captain, but it's only 2 people in the boat. So I think that's kind of an unfair question or analogy or statistic when it comes to our trail. We are getting some college kids. We're not far from Nacogdoches, and SFA's got a pretty strong fishing program. We do get some of those guys. But again, I think money is more tighter with a college kid than it is with any adult. So they're not going to be able to run down and be able to fish a tournament plus expenses.
Yeah. I agree. Clint, I'm gonna jump in here on this with some tough questions for you. And please, I don't want to get you in trouble with everything. I just want your personal opinion on a few different things. So let's start.
You can plead the fifth if you need to.
Plead the fifth if you want to or need to. The Spino tournament was on Toledo Bend beginning of March. Outlaw Outdoors ran that tournament for them. Despino is a sponsor of Outlaw Outdoors, and I know you guys came over. Y'all did the Despino tournament on Saturday, and Turner did the Battle of the Brands tournament on Sunday, which I want to talk about Battle of the Brands tournament with you here in a little bit. But let's go here first. On Saturday, Despino tournament, 280-something boats, huge turnout. No forward-facing sonar was allowed in that tournament. Way more entries and participants than they had in that tournament last year. Being at that tournament and running that tournament, give me your opinion on it and also kind of what you heard behind the scenes. And we're going to jump into, do we think we're going to see more of these tournaments coming up?
So you're exactly right. 281 was the number, and that's the largest one that Randy and his crew's ever had. And the big question was, is it because of not allowing forward-facing sonar? And, that seemed like the whole conversation of the weekend. And when Randy, I'll kind of back up. Back about October of last year, Randy called me, and he said, man, I'm thinking about not allowing forward-facing sonar in my tournament. And I said, I'll do anything you want to, Randy. I work for you in this case. We're just contracted to produce that tournament. And he said, no, that ain't your answer. I want your opinion about it. And I said, well, you're stepping out there. You're pretty much the first one that is targeting forward-facing sonar. I know we had a guy that put on a tournament last year on Rayburn that was no electronics, which I think that's a totally different conversation here.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is.
Just prohibiting forward-facing sonar is totally different. And I said, Randy, numbers are down overall as far as participation. And I think maybe the BFL had already released their schedule, and I know Brandon Belt had. And we knew that the Despino tournament, or Fishing for Kids tournament, was on top of the Belt and the BFL. And there was also a high school tournament on Toledo that same day. And I said, Randy, I almost think you're setting yourself up for disaster, because you've got a bunch of competition that day, plus you're really stepping out there with this rule. And he said, man, you're the first one that's kind of been a little negative about it. Let me back up and think. And it wasn't a week. He called me back. He said, we're going to do it. We're going to do it and try it. And I said, hey, that's fine with me. I just wanted to, you asked for my opinion and I gave it to you. And I tried to, I prepared a lot of people for his numbers to be down. And by telling them, man, there's a lot of guys that are strung out all across the lake. If he was the only tournament on Toledo that day, then I think we can. I'm glad he wasn't. We might have got 400 teams that day.
Yeah.
And
there was 100 in the BFL, and I talked to 20 of them that told me I'd have fished. I didn't get to fish Despino. Then you had the Brandon Belt that would have drew. Now, let me say this: Despino also did not allow guides. Correct?
That's
right.
Correct.
That is true. That is correct.
Yeah. Now that's nothing new. He's always prohibited guides from fishing. But when the entry started coming in, I was surprised, and I would have been surprised at the numbers, even if the subject of forward-facing sonar wasn't even a factor here. I would have never thought in a regular event that he could have gotten that much. Now, to be fair, Randy really spent some money. He did 2 digital billboards down on I-10. He had one of his employees for 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time going and putting flyers on trucks at boat ramps. I mean, he promoted this one probably more than he ever had.
Yeah, agreed.
So everything's not equal.
And Clint, I too was also a guy. He called and picked my brain on this and asked my opinion. And I told him, I said, here's the deal. And here's how I still feel. I feel like when you look at the Poche or you look at the Despino Tire, those are benefit tournaments. Guys are gonna fish those, I think, no matter what. They're gonna. This is the one. This may be the only tournament they fish all year. They're gonna fish that. I think what helped him a little bit, and I'm gonna say 10% maybe. He may have gained a few anglers, because I still think they're coming to that event, whether he banned it or not. I still think they're coming. But that's just my opinion.
No, I do agree with that. And our database, once you put a team in there, they're in that forever. And so Stacy can look and see what tournaments any team has fished. And we do have a lot of people that only fish that one tournament as far as we're concerned. They don't come to Rayburn and fish ours.
Exactly.
Right. And you don't do a whole lot on Toledo Bend anyway. No. I mean, you do some. You've done some with me in the past, but you don't do a whole lot on Toledo Bend anyway. So
Right.
And Clint, going to the forward-facing sonar, who's going to be the first, like Randy Despino was, to change the game with forward-facing sonar? There's going to have to be some teeth put into the rules of certain organizations, tournament trails, whether it's Outlaw
Outdoors.
Start with
the Elite Series. Let's start with the Elite Series. I mean,
the reason why I don't start with the elites, to me, they don't matter. It doesn't matter what they do. You're talking a very small percentage of people that fish the Elite Series. They have no effect on, I don't think, what Clint does, what Mike Eccles does with Shreveport, Chris Wayan or ABA. Those are the organizations that when they start banning it or put some teeth into it, I think that's when the game's going to change. Clint, am I right or am I wrong?
So let me answer your first question first. Who's going to be the first trail to ban it or prohibit it? It's not going to be Outlaw Outdoors. I'm not going to be the pioneer of the one that, maybe the first one to prohibit it is going to be the hero in the grassroots fishing industry,
Mhm.
but I'm not taking that gamble.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
happy where we are. Our numbers are good. I feel like you're going to really, really set yourself apart in the industry when you take that step. And that could be good. That could be good for an organization, but it also could be bad. And, I've always had my business philosophy is a lot different than kind of the way I live my personal life. I'm a gambler in my personal life. When I want something, I'm pretty impulsive. I jump out there and I get it. But in my business life, if it's not black and white or very obvious to me, I won't do it. I
Right.
definitely take the safe route when I make a business decision. And I think, am I taking the safe route by just playing the course here and allowing it? Absolutely I am. But it's working for us currently. Are our numbers down? Yes, like we discussed earlier, but everybody's is.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Let me go to what you touched on, the Elite Series. Yes, it's only a small percentage of fishermen, but let me tell you what it would do for the amateur level. If the Elite Series prohibited it, it would almost be a hint of permission for some amateur trails to do it, because everybody seems to
That's where I
follow.
was getting at. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I
So
agree with that.
I could almost use it as an excuse, if the Elite Series did ban it, and I could say, well, the pros did it, so therefore I thought it was good for my business. But let me be clear, I'm not considering it. I have not considered. I have had conversations with numerous people.
Right.
I'll give you an example. Me and Corey Rambo talk about it a bunch. I mean, obviously Corey owns Rambo Outdoors down there, and he jokes with me, telling me how bad tackle sales are compared to the previous years,
Yeah.
because quote,
Absolutely.
everybody's coming in and buying lead heads and minnows versus
Yep.
all the other
Yep.
tackle. And
Yep.
that's probably a little bit of an exaggeration, because people are still buying jerk baits and stuff, but it doesn't
Yes,
a lot
but
of
Clint, let me hop in on that, because I had a lot of conversations this past weekend at Bassmaster Classic with a lot of guys about this, and I'm very glad. I hate to say this. I'm glad I'm out of the tackle industry now, because look, let's be honest. A guy can buy 3 or 4 spinning rods, spinning reels, a couple of a couple ball head jigs, and a couple packs of minnows, and go fishing one weekend. He's good set for the weekend.
Yeah. A tournament guy.
Tackle sales are down big time
Yes.
across the board.
And you know
Yep.
what
And
else?
they
You're
do.
not going to lose those
No,
lead heads and minnows, because you
no.
know what you're casting to, and you're
You can
probably out in
see if
open
there's a
water.
yeah,
Exactly.
you can see where you're throwing it. So, and even the minnow, when you can catch 3 or 4 fish on that little minnow. I mean, it's so small, it's hard to tear up. So, yeah, 100%, compared to 5 years ago when we went out there and on the front deck, I'll just take me at this time of year. I mean, well, earlier, before the spawn, I would have a Carolina rig, a football jig, a big worm, so on and so forth. We all on the front deck. In February now, you've got 3 spinning rods,
Yeah. Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and a couple bags of minnows. So
Yeah.
that's a whole nother subject.
Sure.
And
And
Clint.
I'll tell you this: at the Classic, there are some very, very nervous people in the industry about that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And two guys. Let's just face it. You got, like you said, spinner baits sitting on a peg right now. You got jigs sitting on a peg right now that aren't moving off these shelves. And Clint, a year from now, are we going to look at this like bell-bottom jeans and white dress shoes? This was a fad. It's going to be over. It'll be something else. Do you think this is going to be something that's going to have a lifelong or major impact on the industry forever now? That the whole game is completely changed. We've heard this for years when they came out with down imaging, side imaging. Oh my gosh, man, it's so easy to go catch fish now. Well, now this is the newest thing. So what's next? What is next? Is it going to be video, live, actual video camera? I don't know, but
I think forward-facing sonar is here to stay. There's no doubt about that. I think it's a little bit of a fad right now. I think everybody thinks it's a secret and that it's easy. So therefore, everybody from the age of 12 to 70 years old has went out and bought live scope, and just like you said, bought, instead of walking into a tackle store and buying a whole array of rattle traps and, whatever else, our Cincos, we're going in, whereas if we did that, we'd be walking out with $60 or $80. Whereas now we're walking in with that mentality, I'm going to become a scoper, and we're walking in and spending $10 or $15 and walking out. And, I personally, I have live scope, and I like live scope. It's a novelty in my book. It's a tool, no doubt. I use it more to find brush piles and see brush piles in real time than I do actually chasing fish. But, I think once people realize that it's not a secret, it's not as deadly as people think it is, it's a tool. It's no different than that Carolina rig. You can't just go by and set up a Carolina rig and go catch big fish. You have to throw it in the right spots. You have to know what you're doing with it. You have to find the right composition on the bottom and so on.
Right.
And people are going to see, those, quote, kids make it look easy, but it's not that easy. And I think the majority of the fishing industry is going to stop buying that tackle, and they're going to come back to their old ways. I've tried it. I've been there and done that. And, we fished a tournament Saturday, and I never turned the live scope on because it just wouldn't fit my MO for that day. So I'm kind of one that went all in and then realized I'm not going to be able to do this. And then I come back to my traditional way. So I think it'll bounce back.
Yeah.
So kind of going back here, Clint, to what Steve was just asking a while ago about tournaments going to, I want to say this about it. I think you will see a lot more benefit style tournaments like Despino and Poche, which Poche has already told us next year his tournament will be non-forward face on. I think you're going to see a lot more small tournaments like that, or benefit style. I say small, they're not small, they're the biggest ones in the year.
No.
But benefit style tournaments like that going to forward face and sonar. I mean, non-forward face and sonar. So I think you're going to have a lot more tournaments to fish here. I don't really see trails going to it, but I can see a lot more individual tournaments popping up.
I agree 100% with that. And that kind of leads me into what I was fixing to say. I think these tournaments have a place in fishing that prohibit forward-facing sonar, but it's more of a novelty type tournament than it is a true trail. Here's what I think is going to happen. If let's just say ABC Fishing Trail had a series next year starting in January that prohibited forward-facing sonar, and they had 4 tournaments and a championship, they may get 300 boats in that first tournament. Well, you're still only going to have 40 winners in that tournament. And it's, then they come to February. They have another tournament. Let's say they do get 300 in that one. You got 40 winners. 30 of them are going to be the same guys, just like it is on Rayburn and Toledo most all the time. You have the majority of the guys that win the majority of the times. And by that third and fourth tournament, your participation is going to fall off tremendously because guys are going to realize, man, I thought I had a chance without forward-facing sonar, but I'm still getting my butt kicked. And the reason for that is it's not secret. You've got to put your time in on the water. And whether it's using forward-facing sonar or dragging around a Carolina rig, you've got to put time in on the water.
Well, and that goes back to exactly what I said a while ago, Clint, about me not fishing as much as I used to. And even if I'm open on Saturday to fish, if I didn't get to practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whether it's forward-facing sonar or non-forward-facing sonar, if you're not able to put the practice in nowadays, like all of these guys are doing, they're putting their time in. It don't forward-facing, whether you want to fish with or without it, you've got to put the time in, or you're out there just throwing in the wind.
Yeah, and 20 years ago, guys, you could kind of do that, Kevin. You could have pulled up there on the 20 years ago and shotgun one just because of history and gone and fish. Today, that don't work. I mean, you're just donating today when you pull up at the Ram. You ain't practiced. It's just a donation.
And that's not because of forward-facing sonar.
No.
There's so many people on the water now. A lot.
That's
extended period of time.
Right.
And these guys can catch them. So 10, 15, 20 years ago, we had the same thing. We had, your guys that was always at the top of the leaderboard, always was catching them. But, man, and Clint, you correct me here if you think I'm wrong, but these guys can catch without forward-facing sonar. It don't matter. These boys catch them every weekend.
So let me tell you about Derek Mundy. That guy is a pipeliner or a welder. He goes and welds for about 6 months out of the year. And let me tell you, it's not January through June that he's welding. Derek sets it up
we know where
he
he's at.
goes. Yeah, exactly. He's cashing checks, but that dude right now, he's on the water. I don't know that for a fact, but I'd be willing to bet my lunch money that he's on the water right now.
Yeah.
Well, and you get a lot more of them guys. Cody Pitt's gone half the year, but for the 2 weeks he's home, every day he's on the water. If there's a tournament, he's ready.
That's right.
And Clint, here's another thing. I'm bringing up on my other show tomorrow on Hooking Up and Tracking Down. I looked at the bottom 50 of the AOY standings this past week with BASS. When you look at that list of the bottom 50, we're talking Jason Christie, Greg Hackney, Matt Herron, Mike Iaconelli, Rick Clunn. We're talking guys that are some of the best that's ever wet a hook. And you look at the top of 50 and you're like, who are some of these guys? Yeah, so that's why I think the industry, something's going to change, because there's a lot of these older guys there. I've talked to several of them. They're contemplating retirement right now as we speak, because they don't either want to go learn it, or they think it's not right, not good for the industry. It's not good for the fisheries. I mean, they feel like our fisheries are under attack right now. And in the long run, it's not going to be good.
Maybe they should retire. I mean, Brett Favre, Tom Brady, Troy Aikman, everybody's got
to a point.
Day. Yeah.
I used that same analogy in an article I wrote this past week, and that's the analogy I use as a former pro player myself. There comes a day where you're not good enough, and you have to hang it up, and you're not fast enough, you're not strong enough, you're not quick enough. That day does come. And so I'm wondering, is that what's happening with these older guys? Has their day come? So
I think you're exactly right. Now let's back up 20 years ago and look at the bottom 50 AOI standings versus 40 years ago. And, Lord, we're getting way back there now, so I don't really know any names. But the guys 40 years ago that was in the top 20, probably 20 years ago are in the bottom 50. Father of Time just does that to every industry.
Yes. Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were just saying about age. We don't have that drive at 60 that we had at 35. So those same professionals are the same way. They don't have the drive at that older age, or most of them don't. So they're going to fall down in the standings. So.
And Rick Clunn, he's number 100 out of the 100 anglers on the elite. He's number 100. And here's the greatest, maybe the angler of all time.
Yeah, Steve, he's 70.
75, 77. He's in his mid to upper 70s.
To be able to do it. Go ahead, Clint.
He don't belong. I mean, I and that's no disrespect at all, but I get aggravated every time I hear or see this conversation, because he's a hero. Okay, I'll give him every kudos in every category. The guy is a professional athlete. He has done very well in the fishing industry. He's got to go. He's old. Yeah. What other a sport? I mean, if we want to call fishing a sport, then Father of Time is your biggest enemy. And he should have been gone 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And so, I hate to see anybody go. Should Bill Dance be on tour? No. Is he a legend? Absolutely. But you're trying to convince people that Tom Brady needs to still be in the NFL at the top of the game, or Troy Aikman or Tony Romo, or no. Father of Time got them, and they're washed up, and they're gone. Now, are they good football players? Yeah. I would want Tony Romo or Troy Aikman on my, high school team any day.
Absolutely.
But they're not. They don't deserve to be competing at the top level. And same thing with some of those guys on tour.
Here's a novel idea. You got the senior tour for the golfers. How about a senior tour for
It's not enough money. There's not enough money to go around, Steve. There's not enough money to go around in the industry now for what we have. There's just not enough money to go around.
Yeah.
One thing I want to get we've been putting you in bad spots here the whole interview, but one thing I want to pick your brain on before you leave. Man, this past weekend, Texas Team Trail on Rayburn showed out. I think 2 30-pound bag, 37 Monday, and what they have, 37? I'm
Mhm.
trying to look here. And then
I
I think
got,
at
I got it.
32, Hayden Heck and them had 32, I believe. Dude showed out. So kind of let's talk a little bit Sam Rayburn here. I know you've been on. Did y'all fish TTT?
We did not. We fished another little trail and had 18
Gotcha.
pounds, and all I would have done is got my feelings hurt had we fished a
Yeah.
15 trail.
Right. What's going on with Rayburn right now? I mean, it's kicking out some mega bags over the last couple of weeks. Kind of give us a quick little fishing report on Sam Rayburn.
Hey, it's awesome for the winners, and that's something that I think Rayburn has really done in the last couple of years is it's separating guys, which I don't like as a tournament promoter. I don't like it doing this to fishermen. I like it when 21 wins it, and then last place is 16, and they're just stacked in there. When somebody catches 37, it hurts some feelings. And now, with that said, I'm glad it was Derek Mundy because I can tell you why he's catching 37 pounds. Because he's out there day in and day out grinding and paying his dues. The good guys are winning, you know. Now, do I want some, as a tournament promoter, do I want off-name people to win? 100%. I don't like to see the Derek Mundys win and the Clayton Bullwares and the Rusty Rusty Clark, Corey Rambos. And the reason for that is, now, is that personal? Heck no, it ain't personal. I like every one of those guys. But as a tournament promoter, you want new blood in. You want new winners. You want people to look over there and say, oh, man, Bob and John won that tournament. That means I probably can too.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
As a personal fisherman, I love to see them win because the good guys are winning. The guys that put in their time on the water are winning.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I struggle sometimes having these interviews or even conversations or really on Facebook that I've got to be careful which hat I wear or which hat is typing because personally I have totally different beliefs sometimes than I do as a tournament promoter.
Right.
But
no, I agree 100%. I'm very good friends with Cole Moore. And I mean, grew up fishing with the kid and, you know, live right down the street. I watched him grow up from diapers and love him to death. And nobody works harder. I'll tell you that right now. And that sucker catches them every weekend. I'm glad. But, man, let me just tell you, Cole, Colby, Cody Pitt, Tater Reynolds, those right there is putting the fear of fishing for people around Toledo Bend. When they show up, because they're putting in the time, they're putting in the work. And I love it I'm good friends with all of them. But, man, it's when you show up to the ramp, you know then you're probably fishing. If they're all in it, you're fishing for 4th, 5th, or 6th just because they're putting their time in.
Well, and two guys, you know, when you got the same guys winning all the time, it's like Clint just said, it's not good for the circuit. No. Because there's guys I've seen Facebook posts by guys. Well, I'm not fishing Rayburn anymore. They tell me shotgunners and the same guys always win. I'm tired of donating to those guys. They complain and they're vocal about it. I relate similar to, I played on a softball team. Home Depot was our sponsor. And we had players from all over Louisiana, and we were really good. We won a world championship. Well, when we showed up at a tournament, there were teams that would literally drop out.
Yeah.
Because they knew they were playing for 2nd or 3rd. They wasn't going to win. And that hurts. That hurts. I don't care what sport it is. That hurts the sport when somebody just dominates like that. And and Clint's looking at it from a tournament director standpoint. He wants as many people there as he can possibly get. So
it's a business.
It is a business. That's exactly right. And but anyway.
Hey, Clint, real quick, y'all have your Sweet 16 tournament coming up in a couple of weeks, right? And that's the only one of the year?
Yeah, it is. You know, we had for 3 years we had that Sweet 16 Sunday series, and I think it kind of run its course. And you know, I think the economy kind of took its toll on it, and the numbers dipped. And plus, Stacy and I was just trying to run ourselves ragged, I guess, running tournaments. So we quit the series. This is our 2nd year without it, or we went 2 years, I believe, without it. And then a few people, why don't y'all do that? Man, I love that tournament. So we're coming back with just one this year. And I think it may be something that we continue to do every year is just have that one tournament. And it's such a different format. And, you know, basically you weigh in 16 pounds, you're guaranteed a check. And so you're almost, you know, in my book, you're not competing against the other anglers. You're competing against the lake in a format like that.
Yeah, you weigh in 16, you're definitely getting a check. It just depends on how much of a check.
Yeah,
that is exactly right. If you know, and in April, there's probably going to be quite a few people catch 16 pounds.
Yeah.
and weigh in. So we'll write a bunch of checks. But you never know. You get a cold front come in and a bluebird day, there might be only 5 or 10 teams weigh in 16 pounds, and it may pay really, really well.
Right.
Clint, thank you,
yeah.
man. Yeah, you got
Kevin,
something else you want to add?
Yeah, I was gonna. You mentioned the Battle of the Brands tournament, Kevin.
Yes. Yes, I wanted to bring that up. So you had this on Sunday. It's the first year you've done the Battle of the Brands on Toledo Bend. And my understanding is, and the turnout was okay, but you're still trying to get it out there. It's a new style tournament to everybody. But we are having that on Toledo Bend again next year, correct?
Absolutely. Everybody,
Okay.
GSM was very pleased with that. It lost money. I mean, anybody can do the math.
Yeah.
170 something anglers ain't with 17,000, and it cost them a little over 31 to put it on. But it's long term, and these big companies, they look at long term projects and goals, and they know the potential of Toledo Bend and the format of that tournament, so they're not worried. We'll come back next year. I think we're going to do it on the Sunday right after the Fishing for Kids tournament, and same time, same place. The pavilion's already booked, so it should be bigger and better next year for sure.
I'm glad to hear we're getting more tournaments like that start coming back to Toledo Bend. It's much needed, and I'm proud to see the support it had, and really look forward to watching that tournament grow moving forward.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Clint, hey man, thank you as always. We can't say thank you enough for coming on with us and sharing your opinion and giving us some great insight as to whatever hot topic we're talking about. And again, we just enjoy having you on. Your opinion is valued, and as somebody that's been in the industry as long as you have, and the success you've had in this industry, hey, hats off to you, buddy. And thank you for coming on with us.
I appreciate you having me, and looking forward to the next time.
All right.
Thanks, Clint.
Take care.
Clint Wade. Clint Wade, owner of Outlaw Outdoors, and Kevin, you did a great job, and we got a lot to cover real quick. I know you got an appointment, so we're going to have to get with it here. When we return, we got tournament. We'll wrap up some other tournaments. We got lake level reports and more when you're watching Tackle Talk Live. We'll be right back.
Pride Rods, custom-built fishing rods made to handle any and all techniques. Fishing rods designed for sensitivity and made to last in Montgomery, Texas. Built by Billy Kistler with the finest Gary Loomis North Fork composite blanks available. They offer a complete line of spinning and casting rods for both fresh and saltwater. Pride Rods do more than pass the eye test. They excel in performance as well. Ask your local tackle dealer if they carry Pride Rods and pick one up to try it for yourself. Take pride in your fishing by using Pride Rods. To learn more, go to priderods.com or call 832-418-6040. The Lakes Insurance Agency is an independent insurance agency taking care of Texans' insurance needs for over 25 years, offering auto, homeowners, boat, RV, life, health, and commercial insurance. Owner Clark Moore is a local fishing guide and tournament angler who understands your insurance needs and wants to be your go-to guide for all your insurance needs. For a free quote, give him a call and see why so many Texans trust the Lake Insurance Agency. 2 locations to serve you in both Nacogdoches and Broadus, Texas. Or give him a call at 936-205-4467. The next time you're headed for Toledo Bend or Sam Rayburn, stop by Keith's Toledo Bend Tackle. They have an awesome supply of everything you'll need to catch the big ones. Whether your trip calls for bass fishing, white perch tackle, catfish bait, or the ultimate fighting shiners, Keith's Tackle has you covered. Keith and former Elite Series pro Ben Matsubu also have the latest information on what, how, and where you need to be fishing on Sam Rayburn or the Bend. So for all your tackle needs, check out Keith's Toledo Bend Tackle, located just off Highway 21 on the Texas side of Toledo Bend, or call 409-625-0181. You're watching Tackle Talk Live, a show dedicated to making you a better angler. Now back to the guys with all the inside scoop, Kevin Jean and Steve Graff.
Welcome back to Tackle Talk Live, our final segment. This segment is presented by Pride Rods, Keith's Toledo Bend Tackle, Lakes Insurance of Nacogdoches, Texas, 2 locations, one in Nacogdoches and one in Broadus, Texas, right there on the shores of Lake Sam Rayburn, and Power Implements Marine, located in Iowa, Louisiana. Kevin, Tell them the special we get if you mention Tackle Talk Live.
Mention Tackle Talk Live when you pull up to Power Implements Marine. Receive $500 off the purchase of any new or used boat, or you can get $50 off the service ticket. Steve, I talked to them guys at Power Implements Marine last week. They've had several guys taking advantage of our Tackle Talk Live program, so make sure you get in on that, and save some money.
I'm going to start out with the ABA Pro League results from Bistineau. It's a new circuit here in North Louisiana. It's had a pretty good turnout. Johnny Van Arsdale on Lake Bistineau, he had 5 fish for 1956. Robert Sparks was second with 1816. Paul Wilson was third with 1761. Jacob White was fourth with 1674. And fifth was Colson White. He was fifth with 16.68. 10th place was 11.47 by Zach Willis. So weights dropped off there pretty good. But Bistineau, not a great lake right now. It's not fishing as well as it has in the past, Kevin. But moving along to, I think you got Texas Team Trail.
So Texas Team Trail, Jason Bonds, Derek Mundy, 37-13 to win that event on Sam Rayburn this past weekend. Second place, Hayden Hett and his grandpa, Ken Bertholet, I believe it is, 35-08. Third place, make sure I get it right here. Marshall Hughes, Cole Stewart had third place with 29-15. Fourth place, Easton Higley and Blake Schroeder had 26-03. And fifth place, Austin Quiet and Brian Arabi, 22-09.
And I'll let Kevin do Poche, but I'm going to do Fishers of Men while he's –
okay.
Do you have Poche?
I can get it. Go ahead.
Fishers of Men. First place is on Sam Rayburn, and they caught him pretty good. Cameron Roan was fishing by himself. He had one big fish for 937, had a total of 27.08 for first place. Tater Reynolds, George Jean Jr. were second with 23.74. Landon Beasley was third with 18.14. Big drop off right there. Fourth place was Zach Hargroder and James Lee. They were fourth with 17.94. In fifth place, Rick Guillory and Richard Garcia. They were fifth with 17.79. 10th place was 16.42. That was Chris Wiley and Stephen Briggs. So, but they had a good turnout for that. I think they had over 100 teams in that event. And Fishers of Men continues to do well.
Steve, the Dylan Poche tournament was this past week in Toledo Bend. I believe 280-something boats again, or around that.
Yeah, 281.
281, correct.
281.
Awesome turnout. Great benefit tournament.
Excuse me, 284.
284. Okay,
yeah.
There we go. Hate I missed this tournament, but, man, 8th annual, and it gets bigger and better every year, Steve. Hats off to the Poche family, Bert and his wife Shelly and all those guys for putting it on. Amazing event that they do there. First place, Andre Martin and Thomas Lowry had 21.98 pounds, won $15,000. Second place was Justin Martin's Andre's son. Justin Martin and Stephen Briggs had 21.17. Third place, Travis Merritt, which was our guest, my team partner that guest we had on last week, and Jeff Merritt had 20.98 pounds for third place. Big bass was Chris Brim, and Jimmy Hickman had 7.99 big bass. Steve, weights was down a little bit in this tournament. I never expected the weights to be what they were, but man, huge turnout. A lot of guys called them. A lot of guys got paid. They paid way down a lot. A lot of things, a lot of giveaways. Again, guys, if you've never fished or in this event, you need to make sure go ahead and make your plans now to attend next year because it's an awesome event.
And I'm with you. I'm surprised the weights were down because it was right on a full moon. I mean,
yeah,
so if there was another wave coming, they would have been coming.
But there was a lot of boats on the water, Steve.
Oh, there were. There's pretty much every weekend now. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Upcoming tournaments. I think Kevin's got one he wants to mention in a minute. MLF Toyota Series is on Toledo Bend. March 20. Well, today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Brandon Belt is on Cedar Creek, April 6th and 7th. And then the Skeeter Sweet 16 will be April 7th on Sam Rayburn. So, you got another one you want to mention?
Yeah, this weekend, Steve, the Mike Hodnett and the annual Mike Hodnett tournament, which is my uncle, the man that taught me taught me fishing, taught me how to fish, took me every time we went right there on Vernon Lake in my hometown in Anacoca. That is the annual Mike Hodnett tournament. It's the cancer, it's a benefit cancer tournament that they do right there for the Vernon Parish Sheriff's Department. It is on Vernon Lake this weekend. So any of you guys that, man, and Vernon Lake's got them, like it's got them. Any of you guys able, that tournament is this weekend on Vernon Lake. Vernon Parish Sheriff's Department is putting it on. So make sure, and they'll have a bunch of giveaways. I know we're sending some Gill stuff, a bunch of giveaways at that one also.
Real quick, lake levels, it's changed a little bit. 169.79 at Toledo Bend, a difference of 2.2 feet low. 10-day loss of 0.12 inches. 24-hour gain is 2.4 inches. Sam Rayburn, 158.38. It's 6.0 feet low right now. Very dangerous. Know where you're at on Sam Rayburn. 10-day loss is 11.52 inches. 24-hour loss on Rayburn has been 0.48 inches. And, I think I said loss on Toledo Bend. It's actually come up 2.4 inches in the last 24 hours, probably because of all the rain we got yesterday. And it poured here at Natchitoches. I don't know what they got, but I'm telling you right now, I bet we had 2.5 to 3 inches in about 3 hours here. It poured here at Natchitoches. So, but anyway, Kev, what else you got?
I think that does it for us for the week. Good luck to all of the Toyota guys over on Toledo Bend. I know it's pretty windy over there today. They had the delayed wind takeoff, so hopefully everybody gets back safe and sound. And good luck to all of our Tackle Talk Live viewers over there. Also, thank you to everyone that came up to the booth at Bassmaster Classic. And just to say hello, it was a Tackle Talk Live fans and Tackle Talk Live listeners. I had several come all the way up there in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Steve, that guys from all over. There was a guy from Illinois, I believe, that came and talked to me, listens to the show because they come down and fish Rayburn a couple times a year. But had a lot of people come up to me at the Classic just to want to Tackle Talk Live, and said they appreciate us and enjoyed the show. I wanted to say thank you for that. That means a lot. We really appreciate it.
Oh, heck yeah. Real quick, I've got a tool. This is a hook removal tool. If you don't have one of these in your boat, you need one, because these can help. We're always talking about taking care of the fish. This is one way you can do that with this little tool right here. Bill Dance came out with one years ago. It has a Bill Dance model. This is another company. But I'm telling you right now, if you've got a fish that's hooked deep in the gullet, this is a life-saving tool right here to keep not only your tournament fish alive, but just keep fishing alive. If you're releasing fish, it helps keep them in good shape. Releasing them with this particular tool gets that hook out without damaging them too much at all. So it saved me several times on some fish that I've hooked deep. So you might want to get you one of those, put it in the boat. Comes in very handy. Kevin, you got anything else?
I'm good for today, Steve.
All right. Well, we can't say thank you enough for tuning us in. We appreciate each and every one of you. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, however way you listen to any of our podcasts. If you'd like to become a member of our sponsorship team, please send us a message on our Facebook page, and Kevin will make sure he gets out a detailed packet to you as soon as possible. For Kevin Jean, yours truly, Steve Graff. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week with more Tackle Talk Live.